After a successful date with Amiri and a little bit of context on the one Demon King in the last couple of episodes in the previous season, this one kicks things off with a much-deserved glow-up of the Misfit class. As much as Iruma wants to keep himself from standing out, it's impossible. They're all revered and celebrated as heroes, thanks to what they did at the amusement park. Still, at least, there are some who are enjoying the attention. However, these vibes didn't last long. Kalego mentions the upcoming Harvest Festival Music Festival as well as the rank advancement exam, and then he also explains that if they want to continue using the one royal room as their classroom, each and every one of the Misfits will have to achieve the rank of Doleth by the end of the year. That's easier said than done, considering how usually a student would reach this rank right before graduation. But in this case, the entire class is tasked with achieving this rank. Keep in mind that they're still first years. Of course, Kalego understands that this is not going to be easy, and so he's already invited a few personal tutors for them, who will oversee their progress and help them ascend through their ranks much faster. The fire demon named Sergeant Furfur is assigned to Jazz and Alisar. He's going to turn them into crafty demons. The beautiful water demon of Apar is assigned to Goemon and Picaro. She is ready to help them make the best use of their bloodline. Then there is Rain. She's assigned to Elizabeth and Clara, and her goal is to make them as charming as possible. The gentleman demon named Mr. Head takes on Crocel and Kamui. He'll help them become great summoners. As for Sabnock and Asmodeus, their personal tutor is good old Baum. He'll awaken the warrior within them. And finally we have Iruma and the lead. Their tumor is going to be Bulse, and, well, he'll train their fighting spirits. That's it for the personal tutors who will be training who. The class is dismissed and everyone is taken away by their tutor to somewhat uncanny locations. Looks like everyone's going to have their work cut out for them. Meanwhile, there's Amiri, standing under a tree and reminiscing about her date with Iruma with a stupid smile on her face. She wasn't able to see him before school, though, and is upset. Even more so when Iruma has to end up canceling their little manga reading session, but it can't be helped because, well, training. Subsequently, Iruma and Lead are told that Boss won't be the one tutoring them for the time being. Their responsibility is in the hands of her merciless cousin, Barbados Bachiko. She so doesn't want to be there, and it seems that the only reason she obliged is because Sullivan personally asked for her. Barbados can be a little too much, though. She basically is a child and makes the two boys do so much cruel stuff simply for the sake of her amusement. Doesn't take long before Iruma and Lead are both her errand boys, or should I say personal maids. Lead gives up and says that he'll just go back to Boss to tutor him. He's had enough. But Iruma sticks around and continues playing the errand boy. He's convinced that she has something up her sleeve. Besides, he doesn't really mind it either. Barbados finds it interesting. Iruma is by far the one who has to put up with the abuse for so long, but then again, what's the point when he just likes pleasing people? Still, Iruma continues his journey to become her ideal errand boy. Later at night, all the Misfits gather around and tell about the hell that has been unleashed upon them. Goemon and Picaro, almost drowned to death as Modius and Sabnock, are pretty much always just fighting Balam. Jazz and Alisar are, well, looks like they're missing. Carla and Elizabeth are currently mastering the art of seduction, and Kroll and Kamui were encased together with their summoned creatures. It sounds like everyone's been having a hard time. Even Lead, who is forced into playing video games without sleeping. The idea is to increase his concentration. Anyway, Iruma's daily adventures as Barbados' errand boy continue. When Sullivan visits to check up on them, she turns completely red. It turns out this girl was having so much fun abusing our boy Iruma that she just straight up forgot to train him. Well, what's done is done, and now Iruma's training finally begins. She shows him her weapon, which is a bow that can shoot 100 arrows, and wants Iruma to master it. She's confident he can do it, and when he does, he may even ascend beyond the Daleth rank. The idea is to increase his concentration. Shooting 100 arrows side by side is no joke. She goes ahead and shows him a glimpse of this ability, not to mention thanks to her bloodline, she can simply create bows from any material. However, in Iruma's case, he'll need a powerful core. He tries and whips one bow out, but she mocks him for it's just a cheap carbon copy of her own bow. She also reminds him that the Harvest Festival is a battle for survival. Unless he can create a bow that is truly him, one that's in line with his desires and himself, he'll fail in the Harvest Festival. Barbados knows that attaining her level of skill requires an extreme state of focus and concentration, one that most people just aren't capable of. But after seeing Iruma's zeal, she begins to wonder, what if he can be her first successful student? This realization takes us to a flashback where we see Barbados being an actually good and kind tutor. She encouraged her students, made them feel optimistic about the progress, but in the end, it didn't even matter, because when those students realized how hard it was going to be, they quit. This is the reason why she was so grouchy when she was tasked with tutoring Iruma and Lead. It's because she doesn't have high hopes for them. Still, she continues to doubt Iruma, saying that he has no desires in his heart and that is ultimately his downfall. As for the other misfits, Goemon and Picaro seem to be having a rough time, but they succeed in developing their bloodline abilities just enough that they can escape the water cage. Raquel and Kamui become good friends with the creatures they'd summoned. Lead finally started winning against Thals in those video games. Sabnok and Asmodeus begin working together with each other because individually they're no match for Balam, and so they successfully land a strike on the man. Both Elisabetta and Carla continue mastering seduction. Elisabetta nails those sexy poses, while Carla achieves something more extraordinary. She masters sexiness through purity, and consider Rame surprised because this is the rarest of all sexiness. Going back to Iruma, our boy is contemplating what he desires. He was oddly into it, overthinking things, and then Alucard reveals a trade secret. The fact that Iruma has to think hard is the problem, because desires are always instinctive, selfish, and rarely rational. Now then, what is Iruma's most selfish wish? He asks him this question. For once, Iruma is able to answer intentionally. His goal for now is to achieve the rank of Daleth heroically. In the wake of this realization, Iruma conjures up a demonic bow so pristine that it gives Barbados to butterflies. It was perfect, down to the last minute detail. By this point, all the abnormal students, the misfits, have shown their worth to their tutors. They have the potential to reach the rank of Daleth, and therefore it's about time that the intensity of the training heats up. Time continues to flow, and before you know it, it's been weeks since the training entered the next level. Barbados is pleased with Iruma, but unlike herself who can shoot 100 arrows, his bow only has 2, which means that it's very important that he uses them at the right time in the right place. She then grins and tells him to take everyone by surprise, and therefore after several weeks worth of preparation and anticipating, the long-awaited Harvest Festival finally kicks off. Anyway, so what's this going to be about? Basically a hunt to gather food ingredients from this not-so-safe-looking forest. But theft and betrayal are not only okay, but they are encouraged. Students will be judged as individuals and not as teams, so as long as they don't physically fight one another, all sorts of mental and psychological trickery goes. But the ones who win will have a bright future ahead. Amiri, her father, and Balam are among the few who have won the Harvest Festival. Now, in addition to the misfits, there are a few other uncanny individuals who also stand out, and they don't look all battered and worn out like the misfits either. As for the misfits, they're starting to get all competitive with each other about whose training was harsher. Iruma soon pulls up and greets them. He notices that Asmodeus's pleasant clothes are all worn out, while Asmodeus is ready to do his best so that he can stand alongside Iruma. Well, for what it's worth, he already has the Daleth rank, so there's that. Then there's Clara, who is evolved into a stuffed plushie. Then it finally begins. The time limit is 6,666, because of course, which equates to around 4.5 days. The participants are free to submit any ingredients at any time though. Points vary a lot depending on the ingredient. The basic mushrooms are 10 points each, while the boss class monsters are worth 3,000 points. Asmodeus and Sabnok go after them. Their strategy is to acquire 50,000 points each, as that should be enough for them to win. However, for the sake of context, Asmodeus reveals the existence of a legendary ingredient dubbed the Legend Leaf that has presumably never been found, and is worth a grand total of 100,000 points. They're about to have their haul when the notorious Dorodoro brothers pull up and declare that they'll take the boss monsters. Their names are Ichido and Nido, and they've been forced to repeat their first year. Looks like getting involved with them isn't going to do Sabnok and Asmodeus any good. Corso and Kamui, on the other hand, summon their creature beasties to do the searching for them. Doesn't that sound convenient? Alucard and Jazz team up to scam other students. It seems they had their fair share of troubles during their training. I mean, they were literally sold to the Demon Mafia because Furfu had some debt that needed paying. This led them to the casino rabbit hole that ultimately turned them into masters of deception and persuasion. Furfu made them realize they can't win unless they cheat. They weren't able to defeat him, but they have already become such fine swindlers. And if they win the Harvest Festival, Furfu's ready to play another game with them. Subsequently, Sullivan is watching over his grandson from the background. A little bit uneasy because a lot of students are after Iruma, but hey, Iruma looks like the calmest he's ever been. He just sits on the ground and starts feasting upon the ingredients he's gathered, together with Lead. Consider everyone surprised and confused, but of course, he's gone about it the right way. The festival will last for more than 4 days. It's difficult to continue hunting if you're running on empty. Therefore, Iruma is simply being a rational person and making sure he has enough energy to last the entire festival. And we all know our boy Iruma had a terrible childhood. He was basically living life on survival mode. Yes, he is a good man, but he's also been good friends with adversity for a long time. And now he's reached a point where he can even teach his friend, Lead, how one can thrive in adversity. By the way, the students who were coming after Iruma to steal his ingredients are no longer able to do so because he ate them. Lead understands what he means, but he doesn't quite enjoy the lack of girls. But as fate would have it, Clara and Elizabeth pop up out of nowhere. Elizabeth uses her curves to charm Lead's heart out of it. She doesn't really have to do anything. All she did was exist, and she managed to acquire his stash of ingredients. No, it's all good, because one day Elizabeth will use this charm to find the man she truly loves. Karma, on the other hand, drags Iruma away. She traps him inside her costume, and just like that, he has been captured. As it turns out, she's been able to make more of her magical pockets. They have ascended to this dimensional space called the Toy Box, which just doesn't end. You'll find every toy and game there is inside the Toy Box. Everything. And when faced with this level of fun and play, no man could ever resist. Iruma gets distracted and starts playing games left and right, unaware that Clara is fully intent on using this private opportunity to finally make him fall in love with her. In fact, that is what the toy box is about. It'll drain the victim out of their magic. And, well, guess what? Instead of Iruma, it's Clara who starts losing her magic first. She becomes the victim and comes to realize that she's actually already in love with him. This leads to a random confession where she comes out with it for real, but right then, at that very moment, Elizabeth opens the costume from outside and brings them back to reality. It's already night. The two girls leave after stealing the ingredients, and this makes Iruma and Lead realize they must never underestimate a female demon. During the night, things get harder because the dangerous ingredients are looking for victims, and the average exhausted student hardly stands a chance. There is panic and distress. In some cases, the referees have to step in to rescue a few because they physically cannot go on any longer. Amidst the chaos, there is a monster ingredient who starts coming after the girls. They run into a castle and wake up the sleepy Picaro. And since he didn't have his usual sleep mask on his face, the world catches a glimpse of his real face. It's almost art itself. Nothing could stop the girls from falling for him at that point. Remember guys, true riz always starts with the face. Apparently, he used his ability on the castle to make himself a bed. He doesn't appreciate the girls interrupting his sleep though and gets genuinely angry at Goemon at this, to the point that they're almost on the very brink of a clash, especially when it's about other students simply saying, "Let me in." Goemon ignores Picaro and lets them in. Once the wakey blues are over, Picaro also kind of feels a little guilty for not being a pleasant host. He relaxes a little bit, but not for long because Goemon rescued too many people. Meanwhile, the tutors are all having a drink together with Sullivan, Opera, and of course, Barbados. Grisel and Kamui have earned a total of 14,200 points thanks to their monsters, and as of that, Mr. Hat is very proud. Raim is also pleased with how Elisabetta and Clara got 9,400 points using light honey traps. Picaro and Goemon have 8,200 points. All they did was hunt from the castle, and Vepar is very happy with their growth. Though Furfur is the one who's really proud. Jazz and Alistair used manipulation and trickery to earn points. They now have 12,800 points, and they look like they're onto something big. Sullivan and Barbados don't care though. They know Aruma's the one who will win. Unfortunately, Iruma and Lead currently have 0 points because, the girls took them away from them. Lead seems mistaken that Elisabetta actually has feelings for him, while Iruma is still confused about Clara's confession. Like, does that even mean? Eventually, at some point in the night, everyone falls asleep. The tutors just pass out from overdrinking, but Asmodeus, Sabnock, as well as Dorodoro brothers are still awake, and they are currently engaged in a battle against a massive monstrosity. It's clear as day that the brothers have some personal beef with Asmodeus and Sabnock. They keep telling them that they need their master back. Right now, both teams are in a face-off against a Flappy Bird that is worth more than 10,000 points. Nero is an extraordinary strategist, and Ichido is well adept at combat. Anyone can tell that they'd make the perfect team. Asmodeus and Sabnock really just argue with each other. They're doing as good as the Dorodoro brothers, and just then, the brothers use their bloodline ability called Peacock of Provocation, which is basically a way to trigger an enemy into losing their temper. The idea is to make Sabnock hit them so that he is disqualified, and they would have succeeded if it weren't for Asmodeus snapping Sabnock out of it. He also explains the deal with the brothers' bloodline ability. Now that the jig was up, it was time for the brothers' backstory. Back in their early days, they sought to become warriors, but that's easier said than done. The smallest unpreparation in terms of strategy or mindset could be the end. At one particular instance, the brothers almost lost their lives, but their master then showed up and saved them. He looked after them until one day when he was asked to become a tutor for the misfit class. and left them just like that. Now they want their master back, and they'll do it by defeating Asmodeus and Sabnak. Of course, the misfit duo assumes that the master they're talking about is Bon, but that's not true either. The one they've been talking about is actually Furfur. Yeah, the whole time there's been a bit of a misunderstanding. The two brothers simply assumed that their master would be tutoring the strongest misfits, and since the strongest are Asmodeus and Sabnak, they went after them. By this point, Asmodeus wasn't feeling so good. He was feeling evil. The man consumes the secret pill given to them by Balam that is capable of awakening their evil cycle at will. It turns him into an absolute monstrosity, a savage who wouldn't blink at taking other people's souls. The Flappy is immediately defeated, and even though the brothers wanted the other two to attack them so that they could get them disqualified, they aren't very sure anymore, because a hit from this current Asmodeus could very well mean death. Fortunately, Sabnak is able to bring Asmodeus back to himself before anything unspeakable happens. He reminds him using the thing closest to his heart, which of course is Iruma. And so thanks to Iruma's existence, Asmodeus goes back to being his normal self again. That was it. Even though the brothers and the misfit duo still argue about who gets to take more points from the Flappy Bird, it's clear that they lost to the misfit duo, but what they can't really understand is how they lost to a team of two that barely has teamwork, if any at all. By this point, it's the second day of the festival. Iruma and Lead have gotten nowhere in terms of collecting points, yet they continue to have their fill every time they catch some ingredients. This causes Lead to think that Iruma is definitely going after the legend leaf. And when he asks Iruma about it, our protagonist simply agrees, without realizing what this implies. He also has only just realized that all of their ingredients were robbed by Elisabetta. So there's that. As we talked about before, the legend leaf is no joke. In the history of the Harvest Festival, it has never, not once, been harvested by a participant. It might as well not exist as far as the participants are convinced, because for what it's worth, they don't even know what it looks like. Iruma realizes that they would have a better shot at asking the monsters in the forest about it, because, well, common sense. This ultimately takes them to Crossell and Kamui. Remember, those two are personally trained in the art of summoning by Mr. Hat. Once there, they see that Crossell has become a ruler of these monsters. She has authority over them, and looks like it's also taken her straight into her evil cycle. She's now the queen of the monsters, while Kamui is her administrator, or something. I don't know. Iruma and Lead try to talk to her, but it's useless. At least until she forces them into wearing dresses, dancing, and taking pictures. Once she's through with them, her cute monsters oblige. They reveal that the legend leaf hasn't even grown yet. It's still a seed. And very conveniently, the monsters share a riddle with them that can take them to the location of the seed and the vase. They'll have to use the seed to grow the legend leaf in that vase. The tutors are very intrigued by this development because this is essentially the first time a participant has found the riddle. Though if day 1 was hard enough, day 2 certainly didn't get any easier. Students are passing out from exhaustion all over the place, even the supervisors are tired at this point, and so further help is called. It's the student council. They show up to take care of things. Amiri, being a sweet maiden in love, thinks about Iruma, and deep down in her heart, she already knows that he will be the one who finally finds the legend leaf. In fact, a fellow council member even teases her about it, how he may even give her a bouquet of the leaf's flowers. This causes our sweetie to enter the rabbit hole of daydreaming about marrying our boy. Honestly, this girl can be pretty sweet sometimes. Anyway, enough with the daydreaming. She and the council then find a gambling den where all the students who gave up are now betting on who will win. She looks into it and finds out that the ones running this den are her two misfits, Jazz and Alisar. When asked about it, they explained how a participant named Orobas became their downfall. His ability, called a trauma, should be illegal. It causes people to recall things they're traumatic of. In Jazz's case, it made him see silly visions of his not-so-nice brother named Rock. Rock is the kind of brother that would give his younger brother trauma, as it can be seen with Jazz. Jazz hits an illusion of Rock and ends up getting disqualified because 1, it was an illusion, 2, the one hit was actually Orobas. Since hitting another participant is illegal, Jazz was disqualified. Alisar goes on to tell Amiri that this guy, Orobas, has some personal beef with the Misfits. He's actually looking for them in hopes of getting them disqualified. Meanwhile, Iruma and Lead are trying their best to understand the riddle. They take half the riddle each and go their separate ways in search of clues. Iruma soon comes across a cave, and he's convinced that the seed is inside. Alucard kinda wonders if it's a good idea to go in there all alone, but never mind that, because shortly after entering the cave, Iruma comes across another participant. It's Nafula, the Silent. Infamous for being absurdly smelly, and he's now trapped in some vines. Alucard reminds Iruma that it's none of their business, but hey, it's Iruma we're talking about. He goes ahead and saves the guy. Together they go further into the cave and eventually reach an underground temple. Rejoice, guys, the seed is there in the temple, but right then, in that very moment, a massive giant named Toto the Genie attacked them. He's the alleged guardian of the seed, and for very good reasons. He's going to continue protecting it. They might as well give up now, because unless they defeat him, they can't have the seed. Or maybe they can just tell him something interesting, and that would be cool too. Iruma and Nufula try their hand at telling him interesting things, but it's no use. Toto already knows everything about everything, but guess what? His knowledge is limited to Netherworld. He doesn't know about the human world. This starts giving Iruma ideas. Together with Nufula and Alucard, he mimics a scene from the first love memories, and bingo! Toto is beyond amazed. He becomes a diehard fan of First Love Memories and basically forces Iruma into becoming his friend by asking for his number. Toto really wants Iruma to tell him the entire story sometime. It barely takes a minute before Iruma already has a missed call from him. Alright, so Iruma and Nufula are on their way out of the Toto temple. Iruma observes that Nufula's horrible stench doesn't really bother him anymore. It's like they're already friends. However, as they're on their way, something unusual happens. Iruma comes across his selfish and greedy parents, who may even sell their son's soul for a quick buck. In fact, they did. Iruma knows that it's a lie, but the PTSD is very real. When they tell him that they want him back to do jobs and earn money for them, Iruma's mind is taken over. The trauma gets the better of him. Of course, it's Oribus who unleashes this curse upon him, and they're severe enough to completely knock Iruma out. Soon enough, Oribus leaves all satisfied after witnessing Iruma falling down straight to his death. He doesn't bother Nufula, though. He only cares about wrecking the misfits. Iruma survives the fall, but the visions don't end. He gets another one, which is about his friends rejecting his existence because he's a human, and even Sullivan returning him to his parents. The trauma simply doesn't give our boy a moment to catch his breath. He knows that it's not real, it's fake, but the possibility alone is enough to make him tremble in fear. However, out of nowhere, a vision of Barbados appears and basically reminds him of all the training he had endured. This gives Iruma a newfound determination. He gets up, brims with life, summons his bow, and uses one of his only 2 shots to make the visions perish. He affirms that he will become the best demon by winning the festival, and then everyone would love him. This takes us to the 3rd day of the festival. It's stated that whoever wins will also be granted the title of Young King. A pretty lucrative title, if I must say so myself, considering how it makes one be considered a potential successor to the Demon King. Now, following this, Kalego mentions another interesting thing. There's still a student with 0 points. It's too late for him at this point, so I might as well give up now. All the Misfits know that this is Iruma we're talking about, so they're not sure what to make of it. But Asmodeus and Clara know that their good friend will be just fine. Sure enough, Iruma hasn't given up. Not yet. His leg is broken, and he has to climb the chasm walls to get back, but he is ready. Nufula helps him out by using a vine to create a ladder, but he won't be able to climb it because his leg is useless. But then this makes him recall what happened when he encountered the Valley Guardian's baby, how his human blood was enough to heal the baby's wounds. He tests it out yet again by adding a drop to the vine. Something miraculous happens. The vine blows itself out of proportion, grows at an extremely fast rate, so much so that it breaks through the ground ceiling and takes him right outside where everyone can see him. They're all taken aback, but Iruma makes sure to declare that he will still win the festival. This does get him some backlash from Kalego though, since, he currently has 0 points. Subsequently, there is Lead who succeeded in finding and retrieving the Vase of Endings. He had to fight 100 difficult games with a Jimi to acquire it. The referees announced that the vase is worth 20,000 points if he so chooses to betray Iruma, but we know he wouldn't do that. The real problem with this announcement is how he's now an active target for everyone. The vase is a lucrative target for everyone, and so Lead knows that the best thing he can do is hide and hope to find Iruma as soon as possible. But he gets found before that, and by none other than Elisabetta, the maiden who has mastered the art of seduction. Later, when Iruma finally finds him, Lead is shedding tears. As it turns out, Elisabetta took the vase, but not the way you think. No, she didn't have to use the forbidden seduction technique. All she did was tell him that he was not really her type, and she doesn't like it. This came across as too much of a shock for Lead. It was traumatizing. He ended up fainting, and so Elisabetta just took the vase. Iruma sees that Lead has been hurt, but he also knows that Elisabetta would never do something as cruel as ruthlessly destroying someone's heart. He decides that it was Oribas once again. The man must have used trauma on Lead to show him what he didn't want to see. The girls are talking about invading Picaro and Kohemon's castle. Picaro doesn't really care and is about to surrender, but Goemon and the participants who took shelter in the castle are ready to fight. It's complete chaos. Iruma, Lead, and Nufula watch it unfold from a distance, all confused and terrified. Elisabetta uses her charm to take over the hearts of the male students, while Clara is nowhere to be found. Oribas, on the other hand, successfully trades the vase for 20,000 points. He now is in the lead. Now, Iruma, Lead, and Nufula talk to Elisabetta about Oribas, and sure enough, the man is indeed targeting the misfits. it's something personal. And with the way things are, Clara might be the next target. They use Crosell's Blizzard Wolves to start searching for our girl. Meanwhile, we get more context on Oribas. Putting it simply, he's a man who has always been stuck in second place. The same goes for his family, so much so people just naturally assume that they're associated with the cult that worships to number 2. And it doesn't make things easier for Oribas when even in the academy, he always places second on tests and examinations. Especially when the abnormal class of misfits started getting attention. He became jealous of them. He was second place to them as well. So now his goal is to be the winner of the Harvest Festival, to acquire the title of Young King and prove himself once and for all. He does feel guilty about traumatizing everyone, but his partner named Ocho makes him forget the guilt. Ocho is one cunning man. He acts aloof, but don't make the mistake of taking your eyes off him. Anyway, when Oribas finds Clara, he uses his ability and shows her a vision of Iruma apathetically telling her that she's annoying, and the only reason he became associated with her is to get free snacks. Fortunately, Iruma arrives in the nick of time, pulverizes the vision using his final arrow, and braces himself. This angers Oribas. He feels enraged, ready to unleash his strongest level of trauma to completely crush their minds and hearts for the rest of their lives. Conveniently, Asmodeus also shows up. Without thinking, he attacks Oribas. Yes, he gets disqualified, but he doesn't care. He continues to knock Oribas even after getting the boot. The man states that if Oribas was to ever think of harming Iruma or any other misfit, he will personally kill him. Though then Asmodeus, Iruma, and Clara make plans to enjoy some quality time together at his house when all of this is over. Ocho comes and retrieves Oribas. He is convinced that Oribas will become the young king, but still wants to collect extra rare plants for the sake of insurance. Looking at things holistically, it certainly is over for Iruma. They lost their vase too, but it looks like a duo was playing 5D chess all this time. Just as Iruma wonders if there's another way, a referee shows up and reveals him to be Alisar. He's the one whom Oribas submitted the vase to, and well, he isn't actually a referee, and Oribas got played, though why is Alisar here? Well, it was Jazz who got disqualified. Alisar never did. He simply tagged along to get access to the cameras. But all this time, he was still a participant. Thanks to all this, he managed to take the vase from Oribas without the guy ever realizing it. Now Alisar grins as he hands the vase over to Iruma. He, as well as all the other misfits, have faith in our protagonist. There's not much time left while the other misfits are happy with their scores. Iruma and Lead still have nothing. But then again, they now finally have everything to grow the legend leaf. There is both the seed of the beginning and the vase of the end in their hands. Nafula helps water the seed, but not enough. They still need magic to help it grow. Iruma wants to use the Ifrit mode, but because Alacred is already too drained, he can't. But this is where everything comes together. Clara still has the magic she accumulated in her toy box. She gives it back, and suddenly, almost miraculously, the legend leaf blooms. For the first time in forever. When it blooms, Iruma has a stark vision of the Demon King, Dakila. Alright, the deadline passes, and this puts a finisher on the Harvest Festival. So, who won? Well, since Clara and Nafula didn't want any points from the Legend Leaf, Iruma and Lead both got 50,000 points each. Oribas still ends up getting announced the victor, though. He has a total of 58,000. Though then, Jazz reminds everyone of something important. He recalls that the vase is also worth 20,000 points, which means both Iruma and Lead should get 10,000 points more. Sure enough, this realization catapults both Iruma and Lead to the first place. They both have 60,000 points each. So, Oribas is in third place. Believe it or not, he is satisfied for the time being because he finally managed to break the curse of second place. Besides, the real reason he hated the Misfits so much was because he also craved such friendship. He owns up to it and apologizes. By the way, back to Nafula, Amiri reveals that he's actually a member of the student council and someone whose existence was necessary to help the legend leaf bloom. The leaf attests to this, and yeah, it can talk. It explains that the riddle and the tasks are designed to make it so only the least evil demon becomes the young king. And now, in order to honor this moment, the leaf explodes and turns the entire forest into beautiful cherry blossoms. Iruma and Lead are promoted to the rank of Daleth. Oribas, Sabnok, and the Dora brothers are promoted to the third rank, Gimel. Picaro and Goemon also achieved Gimel for doing a good job of protecting students, and Cressel and Kamui as well, considering how they tamed the monsters. Barbados congratulates Iruma for what he achieved. Lead looks around to see if he can find his tutor Robin, but there's no trace of the man. And then there's an after-party, where the Dora brothers finally realize that it was all a misunderstanding. The tutor of Sabnok and Asmodeus is not Furfur. For some reason, Orbus weirdly recalls his partner, Ocho. Some of his memories are missing as well. The young kings, Iruma and Lead, are given the front row thrones, but Iruma makes sure to grab his friends Clara and Asmodeus, and he simply refuses to let go. I mean, look at that stupid smile on his face. He's so happy. It's a big celebration, and everyone has fun. Kalego was minding his own business, wondering about Orobas's amnesia, when Iruma summons him in his fully owl form. Now we can have fun with the rest of the class. Once the celebration is over and everyone goes back home, Solomon seems like he has something important to tell Iruma. And this brings us to the final section of this season's story. The teachers all go out to share some drinks. Kalego is made to tag along, albeit forcibly because of Bone. Robin is the one hosting this little drinking party for the teachers, and well, he sneakily lets Momonoki sit right next to Kalego. Remember guys, this sweetie had a crush on our stern teacher for like forever. They all begin talking about the students and how Iruma is definitely the most impressive student. Robin kinda mentions how students are like family, but everyone disagrees. They're more like a teacher's treasure, and treasure must be protected. Therefore, if someone is to threaten the students, they must be mercilessly disciplined. Going back to the end of the festival, a flashback reveals that Ocho was actually an infiltrator, and believe it or not, the cult that worships the number 2 exists. He came from that faith, and his goal was to manipulate Orobas into realizing that he is fated to place second. Now, remember how Lead couldn't find Robin at the end of the festival? It's because he was given orders by Kalego to find and shoot the guy. Not fatally though, only as a warning to the cult. When Ocho makes it back, he gives a report to his master about the misfit class and also mentions that he placed a bug on Iruma. Using this, they're pleased by the realization that Iruma is a human. Paul's subordinate gets a kick out of it. He starts imagining himself eating Iruma and how good that'll feel. Going back to the party, Kalego and Balin leave after leaving Robin with the strenuous task of escorting the other teachers home. Once again, he has his work cut out for him. Iruma then goes to Lead's place to play some video games together. They were already friends before, but thanks to all that happened in the Harvest Festival, they become really close friends. He then whips out one of those sketchy magazines to get Iruma's hormones turning. The idea is to make him reveal what type of girl he likes. This stirs some chaos, and before you know it, Lead's sister, Shaky, enters the room. She's been unmarried for a while and inevitably sees a potential spouse in Iruma, but Lead exiles her out of his room. Later, Iruma once again continues reading First Love Memories together with Amiri. The context of the chapter they were reading was about cooking. She plays smooth and states that she'll make sweets for him, but Iruma is way smoother than her. He casually invites her to his house so they can cook together. But they're both awful at this. Opera couldn't even begin to comprehend how someone could be this bad at cooking. He starts helping and makes it so that they can make simple, at least edible, cookies. Iruma gleefully mentions how he'll share these with his friends, and is taken aback when Amiri gives her cookies to him. Unfortunately, he still doesn't know what this is about. Moving on, Scylla then invites Barbados for some snacks and stuff. It appears that he has some important business to talk about. First, it's about how some demons have been getting abducted by the Masashino-ge. But the topic then shifts to Iruma. He asks her to continue being his tutor, and also ends up telling her that good old Iruma is a human. This leaves her completely speechless, just pure shock and loss of words. So much so that Scylla then asks her if she'd like him to erase any memory of this, but she's alright and ready to keep it a secret. Then comes the hangout Iruma and Clara plan together with Asmodeus. Things get hectic because Clara being Clara. Asmodeus mentions that she is the only one still at 3rd rank, but she talks about all the fun she had with Iruma in the toy box. As this goes on, Iruma feels guilty, not because he's done something wrong, but because even though they are such good friends, he still hasn't told them that he's a human. Asmodeus' mother notices him all doom and gloom and offers a piece of advice. She says that keeping secrets by themselves is not a bad thing. As long as he can be their friend without telling them, he can continue to do so. This makes Iruma realize that their friendship isn't so fragile. He expresses his gratitude to them on how much they mean to him, and deep down in his heart makes the decision that eventually one day he will tell them the truth. Anyway, with the Harvest Festival done and gone, what we have next is the Music Festival. The students of the Misfit class have already started their preparation. They'll have to get the rank of Daleth first, especially Elizabetta, who is still Bet, which has the 2nd rank. But she isn't the only one. Kalego reminds them of the 13th student in their class whom they didn't even realize existed. It's Puttasansoi, and he is also only Bet. Even Iruma can only subconsciously recall the guy's existence. Just what is going on? Well, my friends, we'll have to wait till the next season to find out. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.